and Weirdo. Our follow-up with you. By the way, can I point out before we get to this follow-up that it looks like I'm wearing the exact same outfit. I have 2 sweaters that are the same. So it looks like I just changed hats and then we're continuing the conversation. I just want to point out for the record, this is a different sweater that I'm wearing.
Reminds me of back in the day when we brought out 6 a.m. with us. It was during the winter, and I think I brought one hoodie, was wearing it all the time.
Yeah.
One day I happened to change that hoodie, and Nikki Six was like, "Oh, finally decide to clean that hoodie, did you?"
Oh, wow. I just saw something today online that Tommy Lee's wife says that he showers once a week. And that it's
he's had a lot of wives too. So.
Yeah.
That I want to get to that taint there, Tommy.
That he's it's a growing up in Greece thing, that people in Greece don't shower every day.
Well, let me tell you about my experience with that in France. We were doing a meet and greet. It was a theater. It's been a long time. I can't remember exactly when this was, but we're doing a meet and greet, middle of the summer. Walked from the dressing room. The meet and greet was in the hallway downstairs in the basement. And they're not real big on that crowd that day anyway. Wasn't that big on showers either, because I walked out in the hallway. I was like,
really?
Oh, everyone's in me right now.
Wow.
They're all in me.
You could smell them coming down.
It was, yeah. I mean, it was the middle of the summer. I think I was probably drinking back then too. It's been a while.
Do you remember how far away you were before you actually smelled it?
As soon as I hit the hallway, I was like,
really?
Oh my God, it was awful. Like, who the scheduled this?
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you ever get into situations where you're meeting somebody who's a fan and there is a moment like that, body odor or something that you just don't acknowledge to you?
Not really. I do remember there was one time we were doing a meet and greet up in Canada, and I'm a big proponent of shaking hands. I don't like the fist bump. I like doing the actual shaking hands, COVID or not, whatever. I'm still a handshake guy. Mm-hmm. And I just remember there was one fan that walked through, and as my hand hit there, I was like, oh,
it's sweaty.
I'm going to be sick.
Really?
And I got terribly sick. Like upon return.
Was it a clammy, sweaty hand?
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah, it was just like, Whoa. All right. Yep. And we usually are pretty good about keeping like hand sanitizer and stuff around too. So trying to keep the spread of germs, but much like that hallway in France.
Do you know
as soon as my hand hit his, he was in me.
Do you know anyone in your life who, when you see them regularly, they always have bad breath?
No, I don't really hang out with trash, Craig. Tell me about your story, though. No, nobody that, yeah. Oh, no, there was one guy. I'm not going to say who it is because they're still kind of in the circle. But there was one person, yeah. Yeah.
The person I'm thinking of, you and I both know.
Okay.
And all I keep thinking every time I see him is
your girlfriend listens to, him. Okay.
Every time I see him, all I think of is like, is anyone talking to him? I mean, how do you say it? I had an ex who you knew who said to me once, babe, no. And I go, what? And I was, number one, grateful. Thank you for telling me that. I want to know.
Yeah.
And then secondly, and you know this, every night, every time we hang out, I'm like, you want a mint? I got mints.
Yep.
You want mint? Hey, you guys want a mint? I got some mints. These mints are great.
Here, you sure you don't want a mint?
Yeah,
you sure?
Yeah. No, but
come on.
People always get self-conscious when I say it to them, but really.
Do they really, or is that just like the go-to response now?
I just don't like.
Do I need one? Look at me, cornball.
Right. But every time I take that out, I don't want to be like, I got something cool. You don't. I don't want to be that guy. So I always want to offer.
That's me at the urinal.
Yeah, but
I got something cool.
I always am finding
might help with your breath too.
But I always find myself going when I run into that friend, and he's a good friend, and I don't know how to.
See, now every time me and you're hanging out now, I'm gonna be going.
Yeah.
That's the one. That's the one.
Oh, dude, I'll tell you off the air. And I'm shocked, and it's funny because other people have mentioned it too, and no one is close enough or a good enough friend to him to say it to him. Someone needs to say it to him.
Yeah, that's including yourself.
Yeah,
you're saying that yourself. That you are not a good enough friend to let your buddy know. Hey, you sure you don't want a mint?
I'm not.
Yeah.
And it's, oh man.
Yep. So anybody that's watching this, all four of you.
And the last time I saw him was at a concert. So trying to talk in the middle of a show, he has to yell.
Yep.
Anyways, last time I saw you.
Fuck that bitch.
Last time I saw you, you were getting really honest about everything you were going through. A breakup, and you were about to go into couples counseling. How did the couples counseling go?
It was actually really, really good. I'm a big fan of therapy, personal therapy. I'm a fan of group therapy, relationship therapy, wedding counseling, all that stuff. If you're, I'm pretty good at speaking pretty freely, but then when it comes to like difficult stuff, I've always found that I don't know that I grew up in an environment where feelings were really spoken about quite a bit.
What are the topics you have a difficult time talking about?
Anytime that I'm wrong. Yeah. So I don't like talking a whole lot.
That's what recovery is about.
Absolutely,
is saying, all right, I'm wrong, you're right.
Yeah. The one thing that I was really pleased with myself, patting myself on the back with this one, was after having done so much work over the years, when an area of opportunity comes up, I pretty much willingly jump on into that area of opportunity and try to get to work super fast. I don't like having something that's small being pushed aside and then festering into like this overwhelming cancer of sorts, So I've learned to be like, okay, that's what this is. Let's get to work and get going. And it has served me and my relationships much better than back in the day. Haven't always been a one who picks out quality partners. I was thinking about a story on the way in here of the time that I had intimate relations with a porn star, actually.
This is the one that I met?
Yes.
Yeah. Can I tell a quick story about her?
Yeah. We can tell this whole story because I want to get into this. This is
you
fun.
Introduced me to this girl and didn't tell me.
Mm-hmm.
You just said, hey, man, I want you to meet my new girlfriend. And I was like, cool.
Hey, we didn't go that far.
Oh, really?
No.
All right. All right. Well, I want you to meet this girl. And so showed up at your place. You cooked me an amazing meal. And you kept setting me up through her to tell her stories. Like, ask him about living at Eddie Van Halen's house. Now, ask him about prank calling Metallica. And so
I love Metallica. Couldn't let that slide.
I just woke up, man.
Craig. We are professionals.
So she's saying, hey, so you, I heard you prank called Metallica. Is that? And we're talking every story I tell her. She goes, oh, I know that guy. And I go, oh, you do? She goes, yeah, I know that guy. Yeah. I go, oh, wow. Some people I'm bringing up, she's like, they're roadies. And she's like, yeah, I know that guy. I go, you know that roadie? And she goes, yeah. And I was like, wow, all right. Well, anyway, so the story is, and then at one point, she said something that was so behind the scenes that I went, how do you know that guy? And she paused, looked at you, you looked at her, you both smiled, and she goes, I work in the porn industry. And I was like, oh, all right, cool. And then the conversation just went on from there. And that night, I saw that I was being followed on every one of my social media accounts by the same person. And I clicked to figure out who it was. And when I clicked, I went, oh, there's her butthole.
I had that reaction to a completely different video during that time. So like leading up to that, I was single and I'd known this girl for, a while. We're friends. And there was always like an attraction, but I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, can I? If it were to come down to it, like, I've watched a couple of porns.
Can I just say the way this story ends, the detail of how you stopped that relationship is so hilarious. But go ahead. So you meet this girl. You're like, hey, I don't know if I should be involved with a girl who works in porn.
Not even that. Just like, because I carry no judgment whatsoever. We all have done things that we're not proud of. We do things that others may not be proud of, but it's cool with us. It's all our own journeys. Cool, whatever. I want to meet you where you're at today.
So, so you went into it with you figured out a way to do it and you gave her a golden rule.
Not even that. So what happened was, she was coming to Vegas I don't want to give any time frames or anything, but she was coming to Vegas. I want to keep this very vague for the sake of anonymity on some people's parts.
But we'll narrow it down to Vegas.
Yeah, coming here. And, we were talking, and at some point she mentioned, oh, yeah, I don't do porn anymore. I just do OnlyFans. I'm like, oh, okay, I can deal with that. Little some insertion videos. Cool. I'm cool with that.
Little
Whatever.
DJ action.
Yeah, exactly. On the ones and the twos. Yeah. You're like, all right, pull it back.
We just lost every one of our female audience members. Go ahead.
That's assuming that looking at the two of us, we have any female audience members. Come on, we're definitely going to be the podcast now. No, babe, wait, just listen. They're getting to the point. It's going to be funny, I promise.
We just lost the girlfriend that was in the room with our audience.
Yeah. She goes, not again. So I'm like, at that point, I'm like, okay, cool. Then that takes that part off the table for me. Cool, whatever. So we ended up hanging out. It was awesome. Like great conversations. Ended up, doing the deed. And in my eyes, I could see that she was, or I thought that she was wanting a relationship. I felt like that, wanting to hang out. Do you
remember what it was that made you think she wanted to have a relationship?
Just wanting to always come into town, wanting attention that a girl would want.
Right.
Yeah. So just a little more,
Yeah.
And the whole time I'm like, I don't know. And then I went to go to a speaking engagement in Arizona, and on my drive back, got a little nudge from the universe. The universe was like, hey, check her Twitter page. Okay, weird. But yeah, I'll check. Pull up the Twitter page, and there's a video of her, doing the thing that she used to do on video, which, yeah. And
there's a video of her inhaling the thing she used to inhale.
Yes. On porn sites. Yeah. And
it's a new video. She just posted it.
Yeah, new video. And I'm like, oh, this must be like an old video. And then I go,
she told me she's only doing OnlyFans.
Yes.
That's why you agreed to get into this. You're like, all right, if that's all you're doing is just solo stuff, cool.
Yep.
I'm okay. I'm comfortable with that.
Yep.
Now
your journey is in alignment with what I'm willing to have along with my own journey.
Because you wouldn't want to be there if she was still inhaling.
No, I would not. Yeah. And so I see the video. I'm like, that's probably from old. And I'm like, wait a minute. She got that tattoo last week. And that's how I found out. So I immediately texted her. I was like, hey, that OnlyFans stuff, is that solo or not so much?
So
I had assumed it was all solo. It was not.
So every time she was texting you, she was like, want to hang out?
Yeah. Very likely. No, but that wasn't
like those potatoes that your mom would have on the counter with all the toothpicks.
What kind of house is your mom running over there?
Wow. That's the ending of that relationship. All right. So back to the counseling session.
Yes.
How long is the counseling session?
We actually did 2 hours because she'd never met my therapist before.
Counseling session is with your therapist.
Yeah.
Do you think you have home court advantage with that?
No, I definitely don't. Yeah, I had to think about that going into it as well. My therapist is very, very good about being neutral. There was some stuff that I was saying that it was definitely not co-signed on. So at that point, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, you're right. I'm trying to control the situation a little bit.
So the therapist would step in and
she's really good about, this is Kale, this isn't Chris. Let's get back to Chris. But yeah, got some productive talking. I've hung out, several times since then. And yeah.
Oh, you've hung out with her a couple times since then.
Like three different times now. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
anything come up in the therapy session that you had no awareness of that you learned for the first time in the therapy session? Because I know that sometimes you'll go in and you have an expectation of what topics are going to come up. Mm-hmm. Anything come up you didn't expect?
There's always stuff coming up in therapy that I'm not expecting. That's the whole point of going in there, is trying to see from a third party perspective, stuff that I've been telling myself is okay. Believe my own press, that kind of stuff. So to be able to hear a couple of different things in there. But like I said, I'm very good about realizing areas of opportunity, acknowledging them, and then getting to work on my own. I've done a ton of work since the pandemic, really. Honestly investigating, where I am in my walk, my journey, my sobriety, behaviors learned before sobriety that I'm still trying to curtail, these days as well. Just interpersonal stuff.
Did you get your feelings hurt at all during that session?
There was once I got mad. Yes. I got mad. And my therapist was like, don't do this.
What's funny is I asked you if you got your feelings hurt and you said you got mad.
Yeah.
So you got mad because your feelings were hurt.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. There was one thing where, you go into therapy, a couples therapy session with wanting to feel like you've got. Yes.
Was it okay. There's something that made you mad.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see it coming and go, oh, not this again? Or was it a surprise that made you mad?
It was a surprise.
It was something you hadn't heard about yourself.
No, it was okay. So we got like these tattoos of like it's like the emoji heart,
Okay.
Instead of doing like the regular red heart, I would always do like the active anatomical heart for,
You've done that
like,
in text to me.
Yeah, it's just something I do.
Yeah.
So I got that tattooed, as did she. And she was talking during the session, again, going in, okay, we're in here talking, making some communication, some progress. Cool. There's a little lights at the end of the tunnel. Like, okay, we're working towards a goal here. And then she said something about how she had planned on getting that tattoo like blacked over. Yeah. And I immediately go, what the fuck are we even doing here? Like, why am I bothering if you're already doing this? And had to.
Yeah, I was going to say that
100 quick.
Yeah, that's a blow up.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
I'm on her side for that one, man. That was not for covering up the tattoo, but like, all right, man, let's just talk. This is what she's saying.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I was that to me showed that, like, why am I in the room opening myself up, being vulnerable when you're already what the fuck? But yeah, that de-escalated.
Crazy?
We got back to actual talking again.
I can remember watching like a 2020 or a Dateline episode about couples therapy, and this is like 20 years ago. I still remember there was this couple that was having these issues, and like, we've somewhere lost it we've lost the plot somewhere along the way. And I remember that the woman was an attractive woman, but she had this fucked up nose. I remember she had like this big nose or broken. It was just this unfortunate nose.
Uh-huh.
And they finally get into this couples therapy session and they film it. And the counselor at some point says to the woman, tell him what you hate.
Oh. And
she says, I hate the fact that you A, B, and C. And you can see him go. and
here comes the attack.
Yeah. And the counselor says, now don't react. She's just going to say what she hates. And then she says, well, I hate that you always have to whatever. I hate that A, B, C. And then the guy is just, and he's starting to fume. And the counselor says, okay, now you turn to her and tell her what you hate. And he goes, I hate your nose.
Yep, something that she could not change unless.
Dude, I mean, I still remember her.
Yeah.
But she had a physical, like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. It is something you can't do anything about.
Exactly.
I hate your nose.
I love the difference between men and women in that story there too. Like she's going down, you're doing this, you're making me feel this way. And he's like, fuck your face.
Yeah. And by the way, I want to point out, when you say the difference between men and women, are you saying that men are shittier?
I'm saying that
I'm trying to help you, Chris.
I don't know. Not my relationship, I'm not. No, but it's just funny how, we are very surface level for the most part. We don't like digging deep.
Right.
We can't seeing that girl's nose. It's not the nose that he hates. It's probably the fucking yapping that's coming from below the nose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. I'm trying to be heartless again.
So
trying to be tough, Craig.
So the end result, you guys walk out of there, you feel good about it, and I'm guessing she probably gave you stuff to work on, the counselor?
Yes. And we're planning on going back to counseling again too. So that's on the table.
Okay.
At this point, I have zero attachments to outcomes in this regard. I'm happy that we're making strides. Happy that I'm not getting, I don't feel like I'm being backed into a corner. A lot of times I will like hold stuff in, and then, there was one time back in the day, like I'm terrible at verbal confrontation. I don't like it. I can write it down in an email. And then present my thoughts, but I don't like being in that moment where I'm like, and then the emotion gets in the way and the mouth starts going.
How often do you end up opening your mouth and saying the most hurtful thing?
I'm pretty good about it now. Yeah. But
pretty good about not doing it.
Yeah, about not doing it. Yeah, my God. But
I thought you were patting yourself on the back like, I can actually say something right now that will crush you, Craig. I thought you were saying, I'm pretty good about it. I could actually work this room right now and without any jokes, just roast everybody in this room.
That's very much, both can be true, Craig Gass. No, but like there was one time where I'd been going to therapy with my ex-wife way back in the day. And I was like, I always feel like I'm being backed into this corner. And like when I finally get in there, I'm like, I just erupt. There was one day we were fighting about something and I was like, I just got to get away. So I went upstairs. She comes upstairs to the bedroom, literally backs me into the corner. I'm like, you see, this is exactly what I've been talking about in therapy. I am literally backed into a corner.
Wow.
Yep. This coffee's good.
I've had moments. I've had two really toxic relationships where
me and who else?
Where the girl would start like in early confrontations about whatever, early disagreements, not confrontations, but early disagreements in the relationship would result in them going after personal shit about me and go, well, at least my mom isn't blah, blah, blah. And I'd go,
yeah.
And over time, it was crazy how I started, and it wasn't something that's me. It's not something that I do, but over time I would start doing the same thing. Well, at least my dad didn't, and I, oh my God. And there were times when I would say things that as the words came out of my mouth, I would go like, I wanted to grab it and take it back and I couldn't, but they wouldn't flinch. It was just what they were used to. That was how they reacted in situations where they were upset. And but yeah, that is something we got to learn.
Absolutely.
Is I'm curious too with your ex-wife. Did you have any of those skills in that marriage?
No,
No,
none whatsoever. I was God bless her for putting up with emotional immaturity, intellectual immaturity, just the process of growing up. I have a whole lot of gratitude for her for putting up with that stuff and being very quiet about it, like during the whole thing too. Like loyal to the core and never spoke about
quiet about stuff that was going on while it was happening.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. Very, very, very respectful of our privacy, and respectful of the stuff that we were going through. I mean, she had every right to open her mouth, and I could have been nailed up on the cross in front of everybody, just all the dumb shit that I was doing back then. And there's something to be said for, that level of, okay, this is here, this is happening here. There's no point in, adding more difficulties on top of it. She was very cool about that.
So you guys have this, this all starts with her moving out, saying, fuck this, I'm out of here.
Yep.
She was jumping to conclusions about some things. There were some things you did do, but she was jumping to conclusions about what it meant.
Exactly.
And then now you guys have done some therapy together. And so you guys are going to just continue to work on it right now.
As of right now, yeah. I mean, it's a two-way street. I can only speak for my side of things, but yeah, I'm continuing to have open arms. Continue to work on the stuff that I know I need to work on. Things that had they not been addressed at the time that they were addressed, could have been that slippery slope down towards worse behavior. So I'm glad that I was nipped in the bud before going on there. Like while my head was in the, no, it wasn't even in the right place. I'm not gonna bullshit.
Really?
I I had that carrot out there dangling, and as an addict, just like I don't need that out there. Just cut that distraction out of the way. And,
the carrot being other women.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just attention in general. Yeah, yeah.
Is there anything that you've ever said in anger that you still cringe about in any relationship, family relationship, relationship with a girlfriend? Is there anything that you said in anger that you were just so pissed that you said something that you just to this day?
I don't know that I can pinpoint something that I said, but oh my God, do I remember the things that were said to me?
Really?
Oh God, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a couple of things. Even in this last argument, a comment was made directed towards me. It was like, your mom would be proud. I was like,
oh, you told me that. Yeah.
See, now
I'm
gonna start acting like I look.
Yeah, I had the two toxic relationships that I had were both back to back, and that first one,
crazy how we seek that out, and it takes us so long to figure it the fuck out.
Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah.
They were both exactly 8 months long, both of those relationships. And I remember the first one of the toxic relationships. We went to Ojai, California. I'm really narrowing this down. We went to Ojai, California to go to a wedding, and her and I got in our first disagreement, and it was about pizza. What we were going to get on our pizza.
Please don't tell me it was pineapple based.
Yeah. No. I just remember at some point, she actually got so mad that she said, well, at least my mom didn't blah, blah, blah. And I just went, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And we simmered down from there and then got the pizza. We're both grumpy about it. And then by the end of the night, apologize. I'm sorry. I'm sorry too. I love you. I love you too. And I said, hey, for the record, there is never anything that we discuss that should result in you bringing up my mom.
Yeah.
That is something that should never come up.
Yeah.
In a discussion. So
so the next day,
yeah.
now that she's armed fully, has the nuclear codes.
Your mom was a whore. What the fuck you talking about? Yeah. All right. Well, I'm glad to hear that that's settled.
Well, work in progress though. Yeah. My own stuff. I'm good.
You've gone from DEFCON 5 down to DEFCON 2. You guys are working on it.
DEFCON 5 was luckily like a day and a half, maybe.
Matthew just shook his head as though there's not a DEFCON 5. Is there not a DEFCON 5? All right. Was it a technicality thing about saying DEFCON 5? Yes. Oh, DEFCON 1 is the worst. Okay, DEFCON 1.
That I was a DEFCON 0.5.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a learned man in the studio who is correcting us to let us know that DEFCON 1 is the one I'm actually shooting for. DEFCON 5. Does anyone care? I do, because I want to know the correct information. All right, so DEFCON 1 is the one that we were looking at War Games.
Yes.
Back in the 80s.
Would you like to play a game? No, bitch, I'm done playing games.
By the way, going back to the whole thing about meeting fans of yours who will sometimes they'll have bad body odor. Sometimes there'll be something about them that you'll be like, oof, is there anything that stands out in your mind? I love asking friends of mine this question who are successful and have fans. Have you, to this day, is there anything you said to a fan that you still regret to this day? Like, oh, man, I wish I could have taken that one back.
Something that was very universal. It wasn't something directed towards one person, but when I first joined the band, like I've got, my memory is much better now than it used to be.
Okay.
But I don't really register faces, names. I mean, you meet so many people. I have to really have seen you and interacted directly with you to be like, oh, okay, yes, I know this one, because I've been pretty much meeting so many people. The brain cannot hold on to all that information. Period. Mine can't anyway.
But for somebody who meets you, and if I'm a fan of you, I'm going to remember every interaction I've had with you, because it's kind of like when people listen to you on the radio. Like working on the Howard Stern show, there's things that I've said on the show that people go, oh man, I have that happen too. And I go, have what happened? And they'll tell me, and I go, what? And I'm in radio, you're part of somebody's routine. So it's like, you're part of their day.
Yeah.
And you don't know that person, but that person's connected to you.
Exactly.
And they remember everything about you.
You've been having a conversation with them, but not getting anything
right.
direct your way. But yeah,
so
just something subtle and small. I would always say, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Early on, there was one fan that had been to probably like 3 or 4 meet and greets in a row. And I was like, hey, nice to meet you. And there's like, I've been here the last 3 days.
Wow.
I'm like, ugh.
You are an asshole.
Yeah. So now it's always good to see you. Good to see you.
Oh.
That way, if I have met him before, good to see you. Maybe I don't remember for whatever reason, but I'm not going to have them feel any sort of way that I can prevent them feeling by simply changing my my introduction every time that I meet somebody. So yeah, good to see you is how I go now.
I've had that happen. I don't even know what put me. I don't know what the moment was that made me start changing the way I talk. Mm-hmm. But what I do is every time somebody says hi to me, I'll go, dude, what's up?
There's another thing too, like trying to remember names.
Yeah.
Anybody I'm in a relationship with knows if I go, hey, this is so-and-so, that means
I don't know that person.
This is now your opportunity to help me out
and say,
what is your name again?
Yeah.
And not like, I'm never going to remember.
Yeah.
Because I've known this person
I
for
still
2 or 3 years.
Remember, even though I
still
hear
don't know
it
the name now.
Yeah. I've had that. There was one, I remember being in an airport once and a guy said, Craig Gass. And I turned around and I go, dude,
Mm-hmm.
hugged him. How you been? The guy goes, I've never met you before. I'm a fan. And I go, yes, of course.
You're that much of a people person.
Good to see you.
You were the exact opposite of me. You're like, hey, man.
But I learned that from, and I can't tell you what the moment was, but I learned that from hurting somebody's feelings and being like, oh, okay. And I fucked something up. A mutual friend of ours who's a nice guy, who's in a band that's known for having a great relationship with their fans. I remember him telling me that he was outside of his bus. There was a crowd of people outside his bus, and they were all asking for autographs. And he said, I'll sign one thing for everybody. And he said the first guy was a guy who I've seen many times who has stacks of photos, and I know he sells it. So I signed his first, and then I kept signing, and I watched him and I saw him go around and getting back in line. And I saw him coming, and I was like, fucking asshole. And again, this is a nice guy that we know who's in a nice guy band. And when the guy came up, the guy handed him a Sharpie, and he grabbed the Sharpie, and he said, I threw it. And I said one autograph. And I went, whoa. And he still remembers it. And it happened like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I had one moment happen on a Kiss cruise where I did a show, and, oh, man. I've never said this publicly before, but
that you're saying, but there's more than 2 people listening to this right now.
I had the promoters of the Kiss cruise gave me the schedule, and they said, okay, so we're going to have you perform 2 comedy shows, and then you're going to host a thing with Kiss, blah, blah, blah. I look at the times of the comedy shows, and I was like, oh, that show is right in the middle of a Seahawks game on Thursday Night Football. And I said, hey, I said, and this is true. Mm-hmm. They wanted me to perform at 10 p.m., which would have been the last half hour of the game. And I went, hey, stand-up comedy is better earlier in the evening because this is a boat. People are getting drunk on the boat. And when it's, and that is true. I said, it would be better if we did the show at 7 p.m. And because I see that there's a little gap there. Can we move it to 7? They're like, you know what? That's a great point, Craig. We're going to move you to 7 p.m. Now we're going 7 to 8. Kickoff is 8:15. And I'm like, yes, but I'm going to do a meet and greet as soon as the show is over. And I got a team with me. And I said, all right, as soon as the show is over, I said, let's crush this thing. Get everybody out. Everybody, I need you to do this. I want you to handle the T-shirts. You handle the photographs and get them through, man. I don't even care if my eyes are closed. We're going to take pictures. I'm going to go, cool. If I say cool, keep moving. And we got through it. It was 8:13 when we were done. And I was like, oh my God, you guys crushed it. Mm-hmm. Let's grab the merch. Let's get out of here. And then a couple of people who had just walked out said, oh, our picture didn't come out good. Can we take one more photo? And I go, yeah, let's, and I go, Scott, here, grab the camera. I go, Scott, we're going to take one more with the girls. And all right, come on, let's go. And then my friend Scott is a really social guy. And he grabs the camera and he goes, all right, hey, where are you guys going here? Hey, oh, Mexico's in the house. What's up, Mexico? And I go, all right, Scott, come on. Scott, Scott. I got my arms around the girls and I go, Scott, the fucking game is starting. And the girls went, oh, we're sorry. And I go, no, Scott's just, no, you guys are fine. Oh man, I looked like the biggest piece of shit ever.
Yep. So I am quite a fan of sports as well. Golden Knights and
I love that I'm
Kentucky
bringing up
Wildcats.
memories for you. This is going to be awesome. Let's hear it. Let's hear what a piece of shit Chris is so I can back off.
Anytime that there is either a Kentucky game or a Golden Knights game on.
Please tell me you punched somebody so I can look like a nicer person.
Like I keep my phone on my amp in the back.
That's true.
Yeah, I'll keep it right on there. In between songs, I'll run back, check C. Wait on Junior up there, running his mouth, talking to the crowd. As soon as I hear the cue, whoop, time to go back.
100% true. Yep. I've seen Chris pay attention to the Las Vegas Golden Knights games in the middle of shows where he's performing for sometimes 50, 60,000 people. Mm-hmm. He will be updating his sports on the side of the stage.
Absolutely. Yeah. If it's just on Gamecast, back there refreshing. Oh, who's got the ball?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So have you had moments where something sports related made you an asshole to somebody? Oh, God damn it. You're going to leave me high.
No, Craig. No, never. We'll get into that to another time.
All right. I'm a flawed human being.
Yeah. Did I hear that you brought video today for me to check out?
I did. I want you to see this thing because you know that on top of launching this Beardo and Weirdo podcast, I've been wanting to launch a storytelling podcast because there's so many things that I've experienced that when people hear just one of them, like living at Eddie Van Halen's house, they go, how did that happen? Or opening for Metallica as a stand-up comedian. How did that happen? And when they hear all the stories, there's a tendency to go, that can't be true. So I've started a storytelling podcast that I call I Swear This Is True.
Okay.
And I've got witnesses for each of the stories. And one of them is another aspect of this that I want to do, which is I know incredible stories about people that nobody in the world knows about. Mm-hmm. And I asked, and I like to have those people come on and share those stories. And a few months ago when I did stand up as an opening act for Pantera did a secret show at First Avenue in Minnesota on an off night of that Metallica tour that you and I also ended up hanging out at because you guys did the shows on Sundays with Metallica. And while I was on stage doing a sound check, I talked to Grady. Grady is Dimebag Darrell's childhood friend. Dimebag gave him guitar lessons. And then when Dimebag's career started to take shape, he said, just come on the road, man. You can be my guitar tech. You know how to play. Just, tune my guitars for me. And they ended up doing years and years on the road, all these massive arena tours with a road crew that was just made up of friends. And Grady was Dimebag's friend. And Grady, when I asked him about how weird it was to get this thing back together and pay tribute to these two gentlemen and go on the road and play this music live again, he told me about going to a warehouse where all the gear was at to start preparing for it. And he actually pulled out the case that he knew was from the night that Dimebag was murdered on stage. And this is the story he tells. And I want to get your reaction to this. This video is on my Instagram page, and it's a riveting story. That was the night that Darrell's life was taken, and you saw the case.
Yes, Rita, and she hadn't seen it since that night either. So we were both in the vault, and we both opened it up together because neither one of us had never seen it, and had a moment. Needless to say,
I remember correctly, it was that Rita asked you a question about it, and your response was, "Well, they did say they cleaned it."
Yeah,
but when you opened up the case, you realized
it was just wiped down. It wasn't cleaned. Oh. So it was more than what we bargained for. Ooh. We thought we were going to look at just the guitar that he had played, but it was just wiped down real good, but not enough. So that was, man, What are you going to do?
The passing of Dimebag Darrell just happened. The anniversary was just a little while ago.
20 years.
Yeah, I didn't know Darrell, but I knew Vinny very well. Vinny lived here in Las Vegas, and I would always have Sunday Fun Day over at his house where you'd go to his house and there'd be tons of people there. Vinny's cooking in the kitchen the whole time, just making food. He had these like a peanut butter stuffed jalapenos. Oh, just so good. Was such an incredible host. But this reminds me of a story. After he passed, we were playing down in Texas, and we're that far away from where Vinny was buried. And when Vinny was alive, like I would go to a show if I was off in town, and if he was off, he would also be there. So we'd never coordinate, hey, you going to this show, you going to this show. We would just know the other person was going to be there if we were there in town.
Right.
So when he passed, I took an Uber out to the cemetery, went up to like the office, and I was like, hey, my friend's buried here. Just need direction as to where he's at so I can go say hi. And she goes, well, if you go out there, circle the lake, and the plot's big enough that you'll see it once you get out there. And this was a hot Texas summer, crazy hot. And I walk out there just sweating, walking around the whole the lake out there, and I don't see the sight because Vinny and Darrell are both buried right next to each other. And I did not see it. And I, just for a second, I take a moment and I'm like, Vinny, help me out, man. Where you at? Hot Texas summer. I got a cold wind on the back of my neck. Looked over to the right, just over the hedges. I saw Abbott right there. It was like maybe 15 feet from me, and I just didn't see it. But no reason for a cold wind in the middle of this hot ass Texas summer. But even then, the energy was still there, and I felt it on my neck. Looked over, and then I saw Abbott, and I was like, hey, thank you, Vinny.
Man, that conversation that I had with that dude, Grady, so many cool stories came out of that made me think, man, I only met that guy in passing, but now I wish I really knew that guy, because the stories about those two dudes, I knew from in a peripheral way, I knew Vinny because he was a big stand-up comedy fan.
Oh, yeah.
And he would come out to shows. He came out to a show of mine in Dallas, a show of mine in Fort Worth. And the thing I loved about Vinny is that guys who play that kind of music tend to publicly look down on anything that's not that heavy. And he would publicly say, dude, fucking Poison rocks, dude.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good show, man.
Yeah.
You go see Nickelback, dude. That's a great fucking band. He would talk about his favorite comedians. He was like, God, man, Carrot Top puts on a great show, which is true. Carrot Top puts on an amazing show.
Yeah.
But this was at a time when comedians, it was the same where it's popular to bag on Nickelback. It would be popular to bag on Carrot Top.
Oh, yeah.
And Vinny was just always like, dude, that's great, man. Like and I love that about him.
I just saw W.A.S.P here in town.
Oh, yeah.
Like a week or two ago. And Zoltan and I were talking to Blackie after the show. And I mentioned that I was excited to hear Blind in Texas, because anytime that we would do karaoke, Vinnie Paul, Blind in Texas was one of the songs that he would do.
That's
every time. And Blackie asked me, like, was it any good? I was like, well, no, not really, but he sold it. It was definitely, he was a showman, not a lead singer. But yeah, that was fun catching up with Blackie and being reminded of going to see back with like the Sin City Sinners. I think Vinny was singing Blind in Texas. Brought lots of smiles, and to be able to be a shit on him on his performance.
I heard an amazing story about W.A.S.P. that a buddy of mine called me up and said, hey, just want to call you and tell you that I saw W.A.S.P. last night. And I was like, oh, cool, man. And he said, yeah, I thought you would appreciate this. In between songs, Blackie Lawless says, hey, this next song was inspired by a stand-up comedian. And he said, I lived in LA and we used to go to the Comedy Store all the time. And there was a guy that would come on at the very end of the night. They wouldn't let him perform until the very end of the night. His name was Sam Kinison. And this guy was genius. He was a former preacher, and he was really wild. And I remember watching him one night, and he just destroyed the room. And then finally said, all right, well, Guys, it's 2 a.m. I gotta go home and fuck the beast. So I gotta get out of here. And he went home and wrote, I fuck like a beast.
Nice.
Based on Sam Kinison's joke at the end of his set. And I was like, no way. I haven't met Blackie Lawless, but if and when I do, that is the only thing I want to talk to him about. And I want to analyze how that actually happened. Yeah. But yeah, dude. I'm going to be performing in Hawaii. I'm performing in Boise. I'm doing shows in Eugene. Lots of shows coming up in Vegas. I'm starting a residency, a little mini residency throughout 2025 at Jimmy Kimmel's Comedy Club. And all the info is at getgas.com. Where can people find you on your socials?
If you look up 5FDP Chris Kale, or if you do any Google search, Chris Kale comes up. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, on the YouTube here with the Beardo and the Weirdo. And yeah, now that I've got less distractions on my hand, I'm actually doing some writing and whatnot. Yeah, so there's one song that I have been stuck on. Like the music is awesome. I was like, this is great. And I'm just trying to figure out the lyrical flow and the content of it. And I was really going in one direction. And then once all this other stuff happened, with the breakup, and I don't even know if it's a breakup at this point. But yeah, I remember the 2 hours, maybe 2 hours after I walked in the door and all her stuff was gone. I was like, oh, there's that melody I've been looking for.
Wow.
I was like, does my life have to suck to get material?
Wow. Yeah, man, I'm happy that you guys are working it out, and I hope that you continue to work through it and figure it out together. I mean, it's not easy.
Yep. And if not, fuck that bitch.
Yeah.
Just kidding, baby.
We'll cut that part out.
Nope, we're keeping it. We're going to keep it right here. We'll be right back.
He's Beardo, I'm Weirdo, and I'm here to tell you DEFCON 1 is the bad one. What?
Make sure you check him out on Stories That Are Bullshit from Craig Gass.
This is, you know what? At the end of every episode, it should be like, I swear this is true. At the beginning of the episode, and then at the very end, just a little thing of you just in an alley somewhere going, bullshit.
What'd y'all think about that last story? Gay. And